Welcome to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. You can send questions for each show on Twitter using the hashtag IndieBeacon. Now sit back and enjoy learning about our guest for this show.
Hi, I'm Rox Berkey, and I am so delighted this evening to have with me one of my favorite authors, Kay Wendt. Kay, thanks for joining.
Hey, excuse the appearance. It was a mental break day for this author.
We all have them. You know, it's just part of being an author, and you are so crazy busy these days. There are several things that I kind of want to cover with you tonight in our time. So the first thing I want to cover is I know that you recently released Emma's Journey in Audible format.
Mm-hmm.
So why did you decide to do Audible with Emma's Journey?
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting someone who runs an audio company. They're called I'm Hearing Stories. And she was just such a delight to know. I mean, I met her before I knew what she did, and she was just so encouraging and welcoming and whatnot. I wanted to see what she had to offer, and it just, ended up paying out really well into a great recording.
It is a great recording, and I can say that because I actually had the honor of listening to that Audible, so I can certainly recommend it to others that are on. But I think what's more impressive about Emma's Journey is the next steps that you're taking with that.
Yeah.
So kind of share that out a little bit, please.
Well, so for all of you who have read Emma's Journey and enjoyed it, I apologize, but Emma is now book 2 of an 8-book series. I've decided to take a step back a little bit after so many requests to continue her story, learn a little bit more about Carl and what have you, to create an 8-book series. And Carl's story is actually going to be book 1. And he's actually going to, in the middle of copy edit now.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So from the copy edits to when do you expect you're going to have a huge launch on that book?
My goal launch day for him is Labor Day of this year.
Very cool. That's very cool. All right. So I know, because we've talked a few times, that the series is going to be a little bit longer, and Carl is one element of it, but you have other elements in this series already kind of in the planning stages, don't you?
Well, of course. I know the character for each book so far. I'm actually introducing a new character in book 3 that you do not meet in Carl or Emma, because Stacy's got to have a partner in life at some point too, after a major thing happens with her, not to give too much away.
Right.
So I bring that character in as book 3, and you learn about him in book 3. His name is Chris. And then and then people want to know a little bit more about Sue and Ted and Mary Lou and George. So those are my characters. It's an 8-book series. So those are going to be the ones you learn about in each book.
It kind of sounds like each of the books in this series is going to focus on all of that particular character and how they weave into the rest of the stories. Is that
exactly? And what I love about writing is when the story starts writing itself. And right. As I was writing Carl, and of course there's a revision of Emma that's going to take place a little bit, not much, and then starting to work on Chris's story. David, who, if you've read Emma's Journey, is a crucial, no longer living character, at least in Emma's book. You get to meet David live and kicking in Carl's book. But the way everything's weaving itself together, David seems to want to be in all 8 books. So David's actually going to be the interweave among all of them. And they all do intertwine. Their timelines will intertwine a little bit.
I think that's really, really exciting. Now, with Carl scheduled right now to come out around Labor Day, are you going to pursue an Audible with Carl as well?
My goal is to hopefully hire the narrator back that did Emma and see if she'll do the series for me.
Oh, there you go. The voice of the series.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very, very exciting.
Yeah.
I know that you're also blogging about the stories and doing some things around there. Are you getting ideas for the stories in the series, even though you have a rough, map of where you want them to go? Do your readers influence how you're going to craft this series?
Yes and no. I'm a little selective in who I talk to my stories about, because the author always wants to protect their story, but my close circle of friends, I'll talk and whatnot, and maybe bounce a couple of things around, or I'll take something in that I'm witnessing myself, and I'll I bet I could, make that part of the story, or, my character, what I love about my characters is they want to create the story, so I kind of sit back and let the characters talk. So
there you go. And I know that you're very, very focused on doing this now. So is that something where you now have a schedule of when you do what, where, when, and why, or are you still writing as the characters call to you?
No, I do try to write every day if it's possible. Of course, life being life, it's not always possible. But that series is not the only project I have going. I have book one of a very important trilogy to me, being copy edited and due out hopefully by May. That's a complete 180 from Emma. And I also write children's books, so I have a couple of children's books that I'm shopping for illustrators on, and what have you. And then my poetry book, my second poetry book, will be out before April's over. So I'm always working on something.
So you have two books. You've got one in May and one in April. Your poetry and your book that are coming out. All right. So what are the name of those two in the respective months that you plan for them to release?
So in April, which if you did not know, April is National Poetry Month.
Yes.
So embrace your poetry in April. And it is called Just a Doodle. It is little random doodles that I started writing at some point, and I would throw them onto social media. Well, I started getting responses, and I would hashtag it, Just a Doodle. I started getting responses. When is this going to be in a book? This needs to be in a book. So I've done that. My doodles are all in a book. And it's due out in April, and it's called Just a Doodle.
So Just a Doodle is geared toward what audience, other than you like poetry? I mean, are there an age thing, or?
I've learned with poetry that, because I used to say I write adult poetry, but teenagers like it too. And, ages 4 to 7, probably it's a little above them. It's not children's poetry.
Okay.
But I would say middle teens and up. And I know that that's broad, but poetry has this uniqueness about it that its age range is not as limiting as other genres. I started writing poetry and lyrics in high school. So it's hard to put a boundary on that.
Nope, that's good. So, but teens and above is probably who would enjoy that. So that's awesome. And that's coming out in May.
April.
All right, April. So what's coming out in May?
Oh, I'm so excited. It's another one of those that I didn't intend to be a series, but it is going to be a trilogy. And the name of the trilogy is A Colorado Reckoning Western. And the title is Burned on Sunday. So it is time for Burned on Sunday to come out, and I'm so excited.
I think that's really exciting too. I can't wait to see the cover on that one.
I know that it's being worked on now, and we have some ideas because it's not quite romantic, so it's not going to be mushy.
No mush, huh?
No mush. Little glances, but no mush.
And what audience is that geared for?
Women's fiction or fiction.
Okay.
Because I learned with Emma, there were a lot of men who actually enjoyed reading Emma, which surprised me. So I technically women's fiction, but I don't like to encase it like that. I don't like to limit it like that.
So we want to be gender agnostic is what I'm hearing you say.
Uh-huh. I mean, people die. Men like that. Why not read it?
Totally understand. And so that's book one of that trilogy.
Yes.
I think you actually spoke to me about that when we had a meeting that we were at together, and I'm glad that that's coming to life. So book 2 and 3 in that trilogy are already in the works as well.
So yes and no, because again, I wasn't originally planning on a series with this. This was something that was introduced to me by my distributor based on marketing research and whatnot. I'm like, okay, I'm game. I'll try it. So there's a character in book 1 that you lose track of for a little bit. Her name is Melissa. Well, book 2 will be her story. I don't have title and all that for her yet. In book 3, I'm still kind of playing around with.
Well, I think that's really exciting. 2 books coming out really soon. So, I mean, you're a girl that's going to have to be looked at. Where will those books be available, ma'am?
Amazon, Indie Lector, all places that Publish puts out, which I'm drawing a blank on right now. And of course, you can get them at my website, which is kwendt.com. Nice and easy to remember. But the big distributors, Publish, not a lot of people know about them, but they've been an amazing company so far as helping me put things together. And I'm going to see what happens with Burned on Sunday.
Oh, I think that's really exciting. And I want to put a hold to it for a moment. We're going to take a short break to hear from our sponsors. And then when we come back, I want to talk about something totally different.
All right.
Tom Gromes, father of market intelligence, writing business books that are a game changer. International author of nonfiction, has written the first and only books on the collapse of Russia and the first and only book on market intelligence. Check them out at mkintel.org. That's mkintel.org, mkintel.org.
Love to read? Love to meet authors in person? Then check out bookfestival.network to find a book festival in your region of Texas. We are adding book festival events throughout the year, so sign up to get notices and even a coupon towards purchase of a Texas author's book. Sign up at bookfestival.network.
What would you do if you had to put your life on hold to parent your parents? You have to laugh to keep from crying. How to Parent Your Parents is a must-read book full of antidotes and practical advice to help parenting your parents. Author Charlotte Kenyon provides insights to help prepare anyone facing the challenges of caring for elderly parents. Check out our website at www.howtoparentyourparents.net.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hi, and thank you. Welcome back. I'm Rox Berkey, and I am so honored to continue my conversation with a very good friend, author Kay Wendt. Welcome back, Kay.
Hey.
As I alluded to in the first segment, I wanted to come and talk about something else in this segment. And part of it's because, we've known each other for quite a long time. And I know that you're a very, accomplished, award-winning fictional author. You're a children's author. You're a poet. You blog constantly. So people have lots of ways to really get connected with you, which we're going to talk about in a while. But you have, in not only doing your writing, but you've taken on a whole new business venture.
Yes.
And it's for authors, and it's for musicians, it's for the arts. So tell us more.
Okay, well, as I alluded to in one of my earlier blogs of the year, life likes to give you detours, and I left the retail job for a different type of sales job that I thought was it, that I thought would work with my author life and whatnot. And I woke up one morning, I was like, this ain't it. This is not it. And within that time period of switching jobs and whatnot, more and more authors were coming to me and wanting mentoring type advice and what have you. And I'd love to talk to you sometime. I'd love for you to see my stuff sometime, and, or, you know, whatever. And you know, as an author, there's at least one person at every book event. I had this idea. I, you know, and so I decided, why not become someone who does that for a living and take on the author, take on their creative block, you know, artist, musician as well, take on their creative block and help them break it down. And so that's what I do. I meet with clients and I spend one-on-one time figuring out why they're stuck or whatever, and then I come up with a game plan to help them break it away, break it down. So
you're kind of doing a journey mapping for artists.
mm-hmm.
I know that it applies to writers as well as to musicians, because those are two of your favorite, very best things on the planet. So each of those journeys or that you're mapping out would be very different from one person to the other. So you don't have like a cookie cutter.
Don't. Well, yeah, I should back up. Yes and no. Everything, in my opinion, because I am not a doctorate in this in any sort of way. I'm just someone who has a few years experience writing books and publishing them, and I share that with you and how I got through it. But I have discovered through my own path that there are some very, very basic questions that you start with, no matter who you are, author, musician, artist alike. You know, there's a few basic questions no matter what it is you're doing. One thing I always ask my clients first is, what's your goal? If they can't answer that question, well, that's where we need to start. You know.
Do you find that the case often, as people don't recognize their goal?
I've had a couple of clients not have a strong answer for it, and, well, I didn't really think about that till you asked that of me kind of moment, you know, and then others who can answer right away. Okay, step 2, next question, let's figure out what that, you know, where that block is at. And it's been fun and interesting so far. I have one client that I'm basically taking her chapter by chapter as she writes her own book, because she likes to dive back into her head because she's used to the technical world, the business world, and I have to break her of that habit because that's where her block stems from. So, yeah.
In this new business that you've been working and creating with the folks that you're working with and supporting, did I understand correctly the last time that we spoke that you're creating a form of a workbook to help organize all of this?
Yes. What I'm working on right now is basically an intro. This business is new to me, so, you know, I can only take the workbook as far as I currently am. So the workbook as it stands right now is an intro, but it's a good guidebook. It's a good guideline for, you know, short workshops just to get the brain thinking, you know, and out of its norm to help break down those blocks. The workbook is called Why I Write. And I chose that title because that was my defining moment, was being able to define why I write. Because, not to sound confusing, writing defines me and who I am as an individual. And when I figured that out, all sense of a block went away, you know, so for me. And so that's why I title it that way. It's Why I Write.
I think that's awesome. So, you know, realizing what your strength is part of what we do as humans as we evolve. So you help your customers or your associates that you're working with move down that path in a real easier way, almost frictionless.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, that's the goal. And we meet according to how they need me. You know, some people need me weekly, some people need me here and there, some people want me once a month. It's to whatever their need is, whatever their structure is, you know. Some people seek me out for advice in the beginning and they'll call me later. but it is what it is, as long as it's helping push that author, musician, artist forward, then doing something good.
Well, there you go. So in doing this, Kay, what of your attributes are perhaps your biggest strength in doing this, in talking to others?
For me, it was a growth moment, because I don't know how you were as a beginning author at the very beginning of your author journey. But for me, in the beginning of my author journey, I was protecting everything. I didn't want to share info. I was too scared if I shared it, you would be the next bestseller and I would still be scraping by. I fully admit to having that fear in the beginning. As I said in a guest blog that I wrote for an author friend the other day, I still get afraid of Simon Cowell popping out and telling me that everybody was wrong and I'm not any good, So I was in a real protective bubble and afraid to offer what I had learned or whatever, although I would willingly ask others, so, what have you learned? What do you do? But I wasn't so willing to share myself. And as I've evolved as an author and gotten to have some really awesome friends within the author community, and again, once I answered the question why I write, it all came together. And it's become very important to me because it creates who I am as a person. So it's created within me growth. And anything that I think can create growth, I think is worth sharing.
There you go. I think that's awesome. And I think it's a perfect place for us to take a pause on this segment and hear from our sponsors again. And then I want you to think about where you're going to be next, because that's what we're going to share. So stay tuned.
What would you do if you found out everyone on the town council were thieves and murderers? That's what happened in Bandera, Texas in 1873. John Cruder was the marshal, yet he needed to operate outside the law in order to balance the scales of justice. He is the Midnight Marauder. You can find his books on Amazon.com and TopWesterns.com in paperback, digital, and audio. I'm Roy Clinton, and I hope you'll read The Midnight Marauder.
Indie Lector is a store for serious readers and indie authors. Find great talent at indielector.store and save money on books with their book club. A portion of the proceeds helps get books into schools and libraries in need. Find a great book to read by an indie author at indielector.store.
Hi, Brakefield and Berkey here, award-winning authors for the Techno Thrillers books, the Enigma book series. Technology, today's weapon of choice, the cyber good guys versus the cyber bad guys.
We invite you to join our website, theenigmaseries.com, where you will get sample chapters, sample audibles, book trailers, and you can sign up for our mailing list. The books are available in ebook, paperback, and Audible. Thank you.
Welcome back to Indie Beacon Radio. Don't forget to like us, follow us, or subscribe to one of our many channels. Now, here is your host for today's show.
Hey, welcome back. I'm Rox Berkey. Thank you for sticking with us. And Kate, I really appreciate you hanging in there too. So we have the accomplished author, Kay Wendt, who is multiple genres, award-winning, and she has the new business where she's actually mentoring artists as they try to really put themselves out there in their career. So Kay, it kind of, begs the question, which area do you find the most satisfaction in these days?
Excuse my cat, I'm sorry.
That's adorable.
Yeah, she's decided to be a part of this. I really my most recent project of why I write, what was what I threw myself in the most right now. It's kind of a mix. I never had like one exact favorite at a time. Burned on Sunday, I've been itching for way too long for that to come out, and so I'm good and ready for that one. I actually, when we first talked about books coming out, I did forget, I mean, that this is how busy I get. I did forget there is a children's book on its way out called Where Did My Stars Go? And it teaches a lesson in patience. It hopefully will be out by mid-April. That's one I'm trying to do kind of on my own, but I have a friend guiding me through it because I'm not techie, so she's helping me with all those steps I don't understand. So that'll be about mid-April. So that one was fun because it was a new lesson for kids. Kids' books, don't take it wrong, they're not hard for me. So the long process of the kids' book usually for me is the illustrator and the publishing.
Okay.
So that's why, like, well, that one's almost published. There's Phoebe, who is a lesson in sharing, and it's all about dogs and sharing. And, there's Jack the Jackrabbit, which is a very spiritually unique book for children.
Okay,
yeah.
Why do you say that?
It's based on a personal experience I had, and I wanted to tell the story, and I couldn't come up with a better way to tell it other than to tell it down to a child's version. My hope with the story is that children who may fear death and cemeteries and graves and all that kind of go along with it won't have a fear after reading the book.
So that's going to be very exciting to hear that one come out. So we have 2 books in April, 1 in May. Now, are you doing book signings for all of these and the grand hoopla? And where can people see these book signings, ma'am?
So my next book signing is actually not until May 4th, and it is one that my sister connected me in with. It's at the First Baptist Spring Fling in Sargent, Texas, where my sister works, she lives there. I don't know why I got tongue-tied. I'm so sorry. Oh, well. But my family has all been very supportive, and, she saw this opportunity and wanted me to come down and try it. So it'll be my first time to be there. So I'm excited to see what happens there. And I'm excited that I'm going to have possibly three new books to show people at that event.
Wow, that would be very exciting.
Yes. And then the next one after that would be the Wimberley Book Fest with the Texas authors on June 8th in Wimberley, Texas. So
is that a one-day show or is that a 2-day show?
Both of them are 1 day.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. So people can come out and see you. Now, if they've, not familiar with some of this, can they see this information on your website?
Yes.
And what was that website?
www.kwendt.com. That's just the letter K, WENDT.
Cool. And what else is on your website?
Little bio about me, events coming up. You can find all my blogs there. There's also a really cool article that was written at the last Texas Authors event that I got to participate at. I was interviewed by the Killeen Daily Herald, and you can find that article on my website.
And are you going to the next Authors Marketing event?
Yes, I am. And that's always been an exciting time for me. I always come away learning something from it.
And what's your Twitter handle and your, all of these social media handles people need to follow you on?
You would ask me all that. Twitter's kind of different. It's KWendt1. So it's KWendt and then the number 1, because apparently Wendt is popular out in that world. And then Instagram is author_K_Wendt for Instagram. And then they can like my page on Facebook, and that's simply KWendt.
Very nice. So you're out there and you're talking all the time and showing people things. So, if you had to reflect on all of these different avenues that you've been going down since you started writing with the children's books, because I think that's where you really started, was with the children's side. And then you moved on through, a very complex story with Emma's Journey, and now you're working like 5 projects at one time, which, my hat's off to you. Do you have some advice that you'd like to, kind of share? I know that you have your business, but do you have some advice for folks that are out there listening that may want to consider being an author, where they might begin?
Well, one thing I point out to everyone who asks me questions or tells me, I want to write, I just, I get a little blunt, and I do apologize for that, but it comes down to, you have to write the book, you have to write the story, you have to write the project, whatever the project is, you have to write it. The hardest thing is actually making the decision to become an author. Once you make that decision and you settle in on it, and you know that that's what you're doing, while the rest of the stuff is hard in a way, it's not the hardest part. You did the hardest part when you made the decision. But you still have to write your project. Your project still has to be done. It's great to think about, how am I going to publish it? What road am I going to go down? But you do have to have something to publish. So I always encourage, write your book. And, it doesn't matter how horrible it is. That's the rough draft. Just get it written.
There you go. Awesome. I really appreciate that. And Kay, one more time with the name of your website for folks so that they can come and visit you and find all of those links.
Wendt.com. That's just the letter K, WENDT.com.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to your new books coming out. It's very exciting.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to Indie Beacon Radio, where creative souls can find help in marketing their creations. To learn more about Indie Beacon services, to be a guest on the show, or to advertise on our show, please visit our website at indiebeacon.com.